So let's get the shmup sequence working. All right, so let's dive into it. The first thing that we want to do if we're going to do a shmup sequence is we actually just want to load one of the shmup levels directly. I think this one is going to work. So this is, I'm messing with our scene transitioner, which is what actually loads in levels, I guess. We don't actually, in Unity there's this concept of scenes, where you'll build a scene and sort of everything will exist in that scene. For Starr Mazer, we're not going to be using scenes, we're actually just going to be using a single scene for the entire game and loading things and unloading things, but with our own control. This is going to allow us to do really smooth loading and seamless transition in the game. That takes quite a bit more effort than just simply unloading or loading a scene. But it'll be worth it in the end when we have this sort of like smooth section where it looks like there's there's not transitions where we don't want them to be, such as when you hop into your ship. So let's see, it's been a little while since I've loaded this up, so I'm guessing that there's a bunch of errors that we're going to have to fix, especially with my adjustments from the most recent thing. So already off the bat, the scene has frozen, and I've got some no reference exceptions, probably to a couple of events. So these three events that are popping up, the end shmup motion left, right, and event set shmup, those things do not have the right instances. So we're going to look into those events and fix them up. So the first step that we'll add to our list of creating a shmup level is fix shmup loading events. Every time I make changes to the event system, it sort of breaks the previous events, or at least some of them, depending on how I change it. So we're going to have to go in there and adjust that. Let's see here. Triptide is saying that at least if a real cameo with crosscode isn't possible, could you at least make the plush of their mascot into the game, just as a big wink? There's something that we're going to do about it. I have actually been told not to reveal anything, and so I'm not the leaker on this show. So we'll just know that there's a thing happening, but I'm not going to talk about any of the details of that thing. So, all right, let's go ahead and fix up some of these. So we have these little folders that can contain our different event sequences. And the ones that were broken were event end shmup, mission left, end shmup over the right, and event set shmup. So let's take a look at what could possibly be broken in these. Well, when I load it up, it doesn't have any of the event data. So this stuff hasn't been touched for a while, not since I've actually made the visual editor. So I have to go through and set up the basic events, give them some IDs so they can actually be loaded. Basically, we had these events working just on the side editor, which I'm using right now. But we then wanted to move to this visual editor, which I'm now working with at the moment, to make it much easier to sort of interact with events. Variables, we have to wait for event. Okay, here we go. Link this up. All right, so this is an event here. What this one does is it waits for an event to fire, which is Holloway to Treyarch, which is a thing that says that we're going to Treyarch, which is a place that I made up in my mind. I don't know if that'll actually exist in the world. I just needed a filler name for something. And it will go through this sequence, which is only one event, which will trigger some variables, which will set the Star Wolf direction to either left or right. This is important because whether you're traveling left or right on the screen, we sort of deal with it in different ways. All right, we're going to keep going through and fixing up the initial setup of these. Now I want that to be 1, that to have an ID of 0. Oh yeah, and I'm going to play some music while things are going on. Once again, we don't let the music go over the stream because then it would cut out all of my audio. So instead, I'm the one hearing it. But if you want to follow along with me, you can listen to Kubi's new album, Ember. I'm listening to it through Spotify, but you can also listen to it on Bandcamp or on Kubi's SoundCloud. I linked it in my Twitter today because it's my work jams for the day. All right, that one should be all set. Let's load it up in the event editor. Big Bold Flank wants me to drop the leaks while listening to copyrighted music. These two events, which should be identical, are slightly different. So I'm guessing that one of them is not working correctly. Gotta make sure they're in the right order. Boink. All right. That's the end shmup. So Treyarch doc. So that loads the Treyarch doc when we actually finish this level. I should do that on the shmup mission left as well. Surprised it didn't. Oh, it does have it. Where is it though? They're not actually finished putting it in. 2. Ah, there we go. Gave them both the same number. That'll break it. We have 0, 1, 2, 3. There we go. This is the one I was looking for. It's the last event in the sequence, which actually loads up the next level. Yeah, we have a system where we can actually load up levels, I guess, or locations simultaneously. All right. Hey, S-Rain. Welcome to the stream. It's been a while indeed. All right, so this will go through and actually wait for an event to trigger, which is Hollow to Treyarch, which would be the end of the shmup mission. And that will go ahead, set some variables for us that are important, and then load up. Need to load up the doc, the Treyarch doc. All right, and the last bit that we had to fix here was the event set shmup. Let's put in the values for this one. What I'm doing here is giving them ID values. Normally these are automatically assigned, but once again this is created before the visual editor was made, so they don't actually have updated information. So I do it by hand, but after this is done once, you don't have to do it again. And when you build events within the visual editor, it does all this for you. So this is just updating old code, basically. And Terrasan, welcome to the stream. I don't recognize your name, so it's nice to meet you, I guess. All right. Mixed mode. That seems super broken, but okay. The other thing is I have to remember exactly what all this stuff is doing. What order did we have things? Trigger, set mode 3. Cutscene is the next one. Reset game objects active. Set some active, set some inactive. I'll have to figure out what objects those were. And then we set it up as a shmup. So this is the one that should be playing as soon as we load in. Yeah, because it's triggering right at the beginning. As long as we are in any mode but shmup. Then we actually go into shmup mode. Shmup mode is what allows us to control the ship as opposed to controlling Brick and walking around. Then we play a cutscene. I think this is the one that is the Star Wolf adjusting it so it shrinks down to shmup size. Then we have to set some objects active. We probably turn off the Star Wolf PNC collider. And we turn on the shmup collider. I know that's at least one thing we have to do. Let's see if there's anything else later on. All right, I'm going to catch up on some of the chat bit here. Yeah, people talking about Indiegogo. Slightly different then. Oh yeah, I wanted to put up the chat. It's a bit too late for that. I wanted to have the chat up on the stream here, but we will. We'll get that set up the next time. Yeah, there's apparently some issues with Indiegogo campaigns. That's going to go with any campaign. People are going to try to abuse a platform for their own gains if there's an opportunity for it, which is why it's good to get involved with the people who are making your stuff so you can really know them. So yeah, if you want to see whether or not the Crosscode team, Radical Fish Games, is a good team to support, I suggest checking out their devlog, which shows over a year of development on the game. They've really been cranking on it. They do these things called cross weeks, where they're working on the project part-time right now while they hold other jobs. So they have a week where they take vacation from those jobs and they just work on the game full-time, and so much stuff happens during those weeks. It's really cool. So they've been finding ways to work on the game, but they really want to just focus on it completely and get it done. Exactly what we were asking with Starr Mazer. So I can understand their plight. And people are sharing up Kickstarters on the page, which is totally cool. We should be supporting more games. There's actually this whole discussion on Twitter about these alt games going on. People trying to find alternative expressions for games, which is pretty cool. If you just search hashtag alt games, you'll find some really interesting games. And some also not interesting games. I mean, that's the thing, they're experiments. All right, sweet, we got a ship. We're flying around. But that's not exactly the size we wanted it to be. And also, brick is way too large, or brick is standing in there. So we got to go turn off a couple things, but at least we got some shrimp movement here. All right. It's good to stay hydrated where you work. That's water. I drink a lot of it while I work. Keeps me going. Better than drinking lots and lots of soda or other things. Although tea's not so bad. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for the Starwolf sprite. Because I set that to a 10 scale. That's not what I want. Alright, that's the right size of ship. What's Brick doing there? We don't... Brick's just standing around. We don't want that. We're gonna make Brick not stand around anymore. That's a little silly. Yeah, so Alex comments, or Big Bold Flank comments that the thing about making a shop level right now is that we won't get to use it until the other stuff is finalized, which is a really good point. Big Bold Flank is very familiar with making lots of games, so there's normally a decent process about the way we do it, but whatever, we're going to just hang out for the next hour and a half and make some things. So, we don't want to shoot Brick anymore. That's not a thing we want happening. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn Brick off while we load up the scene. So we're going to go back into that old event that we just had, which was event set shmup, and just right in here, we're going to add in a new event, which is set game objects, and we're going to turn off Brick, because we don't want him appearing there. There we go. That's actually exactly what we want. So let's create a new node. Let's get Brick in there. I recently sorted these alphabetically, which made it a lot easier to find things. Sweet. Alright, so before we do anything, I'm going to shut that off. Alright, so now Brick should be turned off when we hop into the scene. Let's see if I did it right. There we go. Alright, now we are in shmup mode. We've got my boost working, we have my bullet change working. My double's not firing. I'm going to fix that real quick. My guess is that, no, I have the blue bullets in here, so let's see what's exactly going on why my double shot isn't firing. Something broke somewhere. Right, so on the Starwolf we have a muzzle control script. Muzzle manager. We've got the double selected. Double gets triggered. And these muzzles, they can shoot. full muzzle view on them. That's just to get that going. Alright, we're gonna dive into the code and see what's going on with this. Before I do that, let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. Yep. Brick is blasting brick, not shooting brick. Brick only blasts. Starr Mazer saw noticing you, yes. How about quadruple for the ship? Like quadruple, so not quadruple, but quadruple. So it's 4 triple firing cannons, a quad array of tri-fire cannons. I can put that in. We have the technology. We can do it. Oh, Interosan is representing Radical Fish Games. Everyone say hi to Interosan in the stream. I like your music a lot. It's really good. That boss theme you wrote, it's dope. But you can listen to on SoundCloud. Interosan, if you want to drop a link to your SoundCloud stuff there to have people listen to music, because I can't be showing music here. Twitch will slap my wrist about it. All right, so this should be firing. So let's see if it's doing it. Let's see if we're even getting into that function. You'll see me bob my head. It's because I'm listening to music through these. Alright, yeah, it's totally triggering. It's triggering. So it is actually going into the muzzle.shoot function. But that's not doing anything. So let's go to it. What's the spread set to on those cannons? That's the issue. Prefed, Star Wolf. We've got the player double. Need to actually bring the Star Wolf into the scene. Spread range. Spread is set to 1, so it should be firing a single bullet at the right thing. Okay. Let's see if add bullets getting triggered. We've got some no reference errors. Accessing the bullet factory. We're going to have 2 Star Wolves. That's alright. It might break things, we'll find out. Ah, yeah. Twin. Anyway. Alright, we got ourselves a no reference exception right there. That's because we are not referencing the bullet factory. So it didn't find the bullet factory of Bullet Blue 01. That's the issue right there. We have Bullet Blue 01. It's called Bullet Blue 01, so it should be finding it, but it's not doing it. So let's take a look here and see what's happening when we're actually looking for it. So when the scene loads up, we look for a factory, which just spawns a bunch of objects for us, so we don't instantiate, which is a good thing. I explained about that way long ago. Alright, this will log to us what we're getting. We can get rid of this Star Wolf. We don't need you there. We don't need 2 Star Wolves. Alright, we got quite a lot of things. Is that for... That's odd to have it go through so many different things. Are these all tagged as factory? Nope. I got 999 warnings here. This is not what I should be getting. So that's interesting. Why is it doing that? Only the muzzles should be generating this. Unless I'm spawning some enemies somewhere. That might be. We have 400 different things. Oh, you know what? We've got some enemies spawning. That's why. These are all purples. Bullet, triple bullet, 0-1. Those are all purples to reference enemies because we have 400 enemies being spawned in the scene. Interesting. So we get the bullet triple. We don't get the single reference, so it's got to do something. Alright, well what it's saying is that it's not getting the factory. Bullet blue 0-1. So if we get our Star Wolf back out, we go into the muzzles. That's why we called it bullet green. There we go. I named it the wrong thing. I'm not sure it's using strings. I should put in more drop-down boxes so I don't mess stuff up. There we go. Now we have our nice double fire going on. Got another issue there though. The single doesn't light up when you first shut out. But that's fine. It's good enough. Alright. We've got some bounds in here. I gotta actually turn off this bar. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to turn this bar off anymore. We were talking about fitting in the faces into this section. So I'm going to leave that there actually and just move the shmup bounds up a little bit. I want to see if this sort of region feels good for playing a shmup, because we do want to use this space right here, for showing portraits and possibly changing up the UI. So we're going to streamline it so it's a little similar to the PNC section. It might be too narrow, but we have gotten extended length since we're now going widescreen as opposed to the stuff that you saw in the trailer, which is 4:3. So we'll give it a shot. Let's see here. We've got people chatting in the chat thing. And TerraSand is talking about sort of the movements of Unity games often being feeling a little slippery and whatnot. You can do that if you just straight up use the physics engine. We are using the physics engine to move it around, but we're being pretty specific about it. Let me show you what the code looks like for moving the ship. So what we do is, this is really all it is. We take in our input, our controller input, and we set the value of what our X speed is to what the buttons are pressing. This check right here is for a screen joystick, which is stuff I was messing with the mobile version of the game. Most of the time we don't use this, and that isn't done yet. And then when we're actually, you have to update the physics objects within fixed update. You'll get much better responses. And so then we just set the rigid body's velocity specifically to what we want the ship's movement speed to be. And so that's how you get that very specific strict movements. What's actually really interesting though is this is taking analog input. So when I plug in a game controller and I'm using an analog stick, you have these very fine movements that you can do, but it's still incredibly responsive. I want to leave that in, but we'll see what happens when you're having very specific subtle movements to dodge around. That could be really helpful, but there's a sort of feeling of tapping the button just enough to get close to the laser, in various shmup subgames. So we got to test it out. I like the added control with analog stick, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, we have fixed the muzzle thing, and we're going to keep it that. I was going to move up the shmup bounds. So let's go into the scene. Let's take a look at this. So these red boxes are bounds. That makes it so we can or can't move around. We're just going to bump this up a little bit until, look at that. That's exactly where we want it. So we're going to put it at -50. Boom. So now we're flying around. We won't be able to go below that area. Awesome. Sweet. There we go. So now we have the shrimp thing set up. Let's load in a background so it'll look kind of nice, right? Since I was working on the slime episode with Tagless going to the asteroid, I'll load up the asteroid background. I have an event for it. I just got to go find out where it is. Here we go. I will put these in the event loader. This is what I'll do. We're going to take the asteroid view and the asteroid scroll event. Let's see if there's. It's been so long; they probably don't just work. Let's go ahead. Yeah, no, we got a bunch of work to update these, so let's get to it. Oh, we have things I haven't even used yet. The trigger mission time. We have a bunch of event functions I haven't even touched in the node editor. This is good. Thank you for forcing me to update all this stuff. When you're sort of revamping entire systems, you can focus on just the quick examples that you do. But this is going to be a whole bunch of data that I haven't touched yet. Which means it'll be a little while just before we even have that shmup up and running. But it'll be much easier to edit once we do. So, while I'm doing this and getting this ready, you should all be thinking about cool enemy patterns and different bullet types that we should be incorporating in when we build the shmup level. Be ready to give me all of the content, and I'll put it in. Let's see here. Ah, Intero-san, you're giving such high praise. Thank you very much. Let's see here. People are talking about using various game animations, game engines, and whatnot, which is pretty cool. Cerberus is talking about if we were thinking of adding controller short for Schmuck Session, then be able to switch to mouse and keyboard for PNC parts. Yes, confirming again that you will be able to use whatever control scheme you like at whatever time. If you want to, the only thing I haven't figured out is how to control the entire game with the mouse only. Doing that sort of mouse control with flying the ship around is similar to doing the touch stuff on mobile, and I haven't got it feeling good yet. So there's some experimentation to it. At the very least, you'll absolutely be able to control everything with just keyboard, with just gamepad, hopefully with just mouse, and any combination thereof. If you want to hop into your ship and grab your controller, and when you're talking with people, just click around, like totally do that. Like I said, the only thing we got to figure out is how to make the mouse feel good to control the ship. All right. Yeah, we've got some. Oh, these things are so raw. I should update this visually first because we got a bunch of these that we have to do. Oh, we can put in a thing to dynamically select the background scrollers. These visuals are pretty good. Setting the background position should be an integer value. All right. Yeah, I'm going to make a window for this thing as opposed to using this default window, which shows us all the information, because we actually have a bunch of these. Update background scroll is the majority of what we're editing here. So it's worth it to actually go in and write the code. So when I say I'm going to make a new window for it, each one of these things for a different event has their own sort of window. And you'll notice that they have actually different information in them. The reason is because I make custom windows for each event. And I sort of tailor them so that it's easier to edit just that thing. So we're going to go ahead and make a new node window. We did this a little while ago. The last time we coded, we made a bunch of node windows. Every time we make a new event, we have to make a new node window for it. But that gives us complete control over each node window. So it's the method I wanted to use. I don't even remember what that was called. It is event update background scroll. Node event update background. Excuse me. All right. So we're just going to make a new node window. We'll just call it update scroll. Not scroll. Man, SBS always on my typos. I appreciate it. We'll update this school to the value. People are having a healthy discussion about crosscode in there. TripTread saying, as in reference to mouse control, it's not that difficult. You just need to tweak the mouse simulator a bit. Let people have the option of tweaking the speed of it. 2 buttons for the clicks. That's it. Using using Joy to Key or else. Well, we'll be doing direct implementation of it, so you won't have to use something like Joy to Key. But having the option of tweaking the speed is interesting. But it's things like, do you click to move the ship to an area? Do you click and hold to move it? If you do that, then we have currently 6 buttons on it, and your mouse only has 2. So how do we narrow down those 6 buttons to 2 things? Can we assume that you have a scroll wheel and you can use that for the gear shifter? That might feel right. It might also be awkward putting your finger there. You might have difficulty getting to the right thing, so you have to set the right thresholds to it. There are lots of things to play and test. Implementation is not difficult. To write the code for it, very simple. Getting it to feel right and devising the right system for it, that's just something that takes time and iteration. So it's not necessarily hard, but it's not obvious. Yeah, we're using getters and setters to serialize this stuff so we can access it through other generic code. All right, so we do this thing where we have an initialize. New update school. Now I'm gonna pronounce it school all the time. Thank you, TripTide, for offering for testing. You will be getting a beta copy, so I expect you to be testing it. I want all of your feedback. All right. Yeah, there's a couple of games that I've been involved with the beta with, things like Hyperlight Drifter and whatnot, and read-only memories. And so when I get my hands on those games, I just sort of tear into them. I'll play the game, and as I'm playing it, I'll write up a list of things of all my little bits of feedback, and I'll just send this massive document to the devs. So far, no one's complained about it. I don't know if they've read them all though. But that's the sort of thing that I am super excited to get. I want 1,000 just huge documents of this is all the things you're doing wrong, and we'll make the game better from that. MetaSBS is talking about being able to just access this. I could just do a get and set with this. I have this sort of. This is actually sort of pulled off from a way that I was making Unity objects. I'm probably actually being excessive here. I just have this thing where I like to deal with private functions within the actual class. It might be excessive. It's sort of just my style, I guess, at this point. But yeah, it's how I roll. And the way basically that I know that if I'm talking about the capitalize update scroll, I'm actually accessing it from an outside function or an outside class. And if I'm using the lowercase one, then I'm accessing it sort of within its own bounds. All right. I was making visuals for this now. So we have a couple of things. First thing I want to do is do the background scroll, which is going to be a whole bunch of things. So update background scroll. Yeah, background scroller, that's a thing. All right, let's go to our node utility. But actually, Matt, you got me thinking about that. It's like it's probably excessive code that I don't necessarily need to write. So maybe I should challenge my assumptions on how I write my code all the time. So there's always an opportunity to learn. So what I'm doing right now is giving access publicly to various game objects, and that's how I make that drop-down list in our editor. I sort of prepare a list of all the objects that could be in there. And we do this in our utility, which is a singleton. Gasp, singletons. They're useful on occasion, especially when you're doing stuff that's not real deeply connected with everything. Alright, that gets our list of background scroller names, which allows us to do a pop-up. Background scroller equals. I actually need to go to this thing. When I remove that name thing, I'm going to leave the name there for a moment until I should think about things and actually speak to you guys. So I have this thing, the background scroller name. That's how I was referencing background scrollers before, just doing a string lookup and comparing them. I'm not doing that anymore. I want to actually directly access it. I can do that through the new windows. Normally when I do that, I delete this property right here. But if I do it, it gets rid of the old information of the property, and that's when I got into that state where I don't know what objects the old events are doing. So I'm going to leave that up for now, and we will remove that after we've updated our background scroller events. I gotta call it something else. Let's see here. MediaSPS is asking if the editor I'm using not auto-generate properties. I'm curious exactly what you're asking. That sounds like a broad question. I could answer that many ways. So be more specific, please. We're using these IDs to reference the asset GUID, GUID. So we always have a permanent reference back to the original prefab when we're transitioning between states. Because there's a weird thing in Unity, you have all these prefabs made, which are pre-built objects. And when the level loads, we only have prefabs, and we actually we instantiate those prefabs when we want to load it up. And the thing is, so that means we can't actually access instantiated versions of them, but when the events are running, they need to access instantiated versions of them. So we actually update the object to the instance version of it. We want to make sure we don't lose that old reference, so we keep we store the ID to the original one so we can always find it if we need it. All right, so that's all set for that. update those properties. Sweet. So I have to store these values temporarily because we're going to use a reference to pass them in. And it doesn't like referencing these because these are the publicly accessible variables, but it won't actually allow me to reference those publicly accessible variables. It actually needs to get like direct access to a variable that it can edit because of the stuff that it's doing to in the object selection pop-up. So we just make an instance of them. And I'm not super concerned about efficiency here or performance here because this is just for our editor. So we've got the full power of our development machines. Background scrollers. So if you've been paying attention to the name of the words that I've been writing down, you'll see that I'm starting to access and use all those bits that we just created. Mattias says that they meant auto-implemented properties, which is the style I suggested. Is the editing not challenging? I still don't understand what you're talking about. I would like to know more on this subject. Maybe you should. The Twitch stream might not be the best to discuss this, but hit me up on like Twitter or something like that. You know about something I don't know about, so I want to learn about it. Might end up saving me some time. Alright, so we'll have the background scroll. We need a bunch of toggles. These I can access the booleans directly. What are the values I want? Introing, extroing, exiting, force set background position. So the thing I'm actually working on here is our background scrolling events. So when you're flying through the shmup sections and you see the backgrounds like scrolling through, this is the function that actually controls all that. And we have a couple of different properties to enable us to determine how the animation is affected. So when you get to a new section, we want it to be introing and it loads up a very specific piece. And then while it's playing, it's actually recycling the same pieces over and over again, with the exit piece just sort of chilling out. And then eventually, when you get to a certain point, we can turn exiting on, and the next piece you get will be the exit piece. So you can use that to transition through sections, but they can all be self-containing. We don't actually have transition assets right now, so I've just implemented the technology. I haven't seen how it looks yet, so we'll have to probably play around with it a little bit more. Alright, force set background. We should call it force position for now. And then we have the set background position. We have scrolling, which is if the object's actually scrolling. We have scroll speed as the final one. That's not a toggle. That's a float field. This is going to be an int field for set background position. Let's see if that fits in the visual editor. Welcome, Ian. I am working on giving a visualization to the background code. Code's been written and working for a while, but I want to actually add it in here and allow us to edit it in our event editor, because we're going to be building a short section. By the end of this, we might get to the point where we can start working on the short section, so maybe I'll save that for next time. But let's see how fast I can work on this. Alright, int fields. Oh, is background position a float? Looks like we do a float field. Alright, so now we have all the code written, so it still looks the same here. Remember what this looks like. We're about to change this. Update background scroll. So whenever we get a window that contains one of these components, we're going to create that, a specific node window for this. Alright, and if I wrote all my code correctly, it should work. Let's see. And we're compiling. Boom, look at that. So this is a lot easier to read than what we had last time, which was this. So that's a whole bunch of information that we don't want in here. Instead, now we just have a drop-down box, which specifically allows us to select what it is that we want to scroll. We can set a couple of values. So this is so much nicer. And I can even go into here and look that it was parallax group 00 space, since I didn't remove that, which is nice. So we're going to set it to that one. Let's make sure that's working. Alright, left it at space, so that's good. Alright, so now we have all these background scrolls. Up to checking out the stream. Wow, so there's someone in the stream named Coke Slayer. I love your name. Welcome to the Starr Mazer TV. Coke may or may not get slain in here. Fun fact, I love Coke with lime. Whenever I go to places to hang out with friends where there are alcoholic things involved, I get a Coke with lime. That way people think I'm drinking, but I'm not. It's a secret. So many background scrolls. There's still a bunch of properties. You know what? Like, oh, I'm going to change this even more. I'm going to make this even better. I can make it like a whole toggle thing. Because normally you're either introing or you're exiting. You're not doing all of them. Are you always scrolling there? I'm going to change this visually so that it takes up even less space. What we're going to do is right now it's all these like separate like toggle buttons right here, which I forgot to make work. I knew there's something I didn't do right. Instead of making it all these separate things, I actually really only want it to be one of these options, not all of them at multiple times. So I'm going to take a toggle bar that will switch between the different options. I actually haven't built one that turns off the other options, so we're going to have to figure out a way to do that. I think I have an idea of how to do it. Either way, we have this thing that I need to check on the scrolling situation. What do I use scrolling for? Entering, exiting, that's fine. Yeah, and scroll is just whether or not it's actually going to be moving, which we want to be moving. So the scroll is going to be a separate one, but entering and exiting, we can make those alternate, which will be pretty easy to do since it's just the two of them. And foreset background is individual from them. So we'll get to that. Coke Slayer says to just make it a flag. Wouldn't that work? Unless I don't want hard coding. I don't want hard coding, but it's a little more involved, probably because you're just not aware of everything that's going on here. So normally I have these toggle fields for my visual editor, and they get the value from one of the booleans inside here. So what we're going to do is actually just, we need to check if the other ones are turned on and then automatically set those off. So when you click one, it'll adjust the others. And there's a couple things I want to do here. So we want to begin a horizontal section. Oh, I know what I can do. Ah, man, this is going to be so much nicer. All right, I have some ideas. Also, my music has run out, so if you have any suggestions for music I should be listening to right now, hopefully it's something electronic, let me know. This is going to look great. Thank you, Coke Slayer, for saying the code looks clean. I hope it looks clean. Doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it actually is. I'm a big fan of this sort of dark theme, this monotie element. Monotie is why it's all dark and bright colors and looks super cool. So what we want is do I have the style, something GUI style. Not GUI style, bigger styles. There we go. I think that's the one I want. I think I might have to make them buttons to actually do the functionality of turning off the other one. But let's do this one step at a time. Alright, so now we have it slightly more set up so that they're actually in these rows, which is really nice. But we're still not in the visual style that we wanted to. I want it to be a single button that you click. So the editor styles.toggle group isn't what I want. I think I want toolbar. Coke Slayer, even if you're hard coding, if you're doing it in C, that's pretty gangster. Alright, so we got a little bit of it. We have these weird buttons. That's sort of what I want. But I actually want it like these things up here. Like this thing, that's what I'm looking for. Just that turn off. So I'm going to go back to those and look it up. Let's see here. People have some suggestions. Avi Sarashu, Ian, everyone is listening to Avi Sarashu right now. I'm actually not super, but you know what? Let's see. Let's see if there's new stuff that I like. Avi and Sarashi. Do we have it on Sarashi? You've got just Sarashu. We're going to just listen to some Sarashu. Because that's what popped up. Sorry, I'm totally reading all this stuff, talking about things. We're talking about Steven Universe, chiptunes, and C programming. Oh, this has got some pretty funky bass. I'm digging it. Thank you for the suggestion. So, the toolbar editing isn't exactly what we want. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at what I did over there in the node window. Weights. Toolbar button in a GUI layout, not an editor GUI layout. Yeah, there's all sorts of different things you can do with Unity editor stuff. I want the string afterwards. Oh, look at that. Now I want it so when I click one of these, the other one doesn't pop up. So there's a couple ways I can do this. Let's see what happens. I think that's always going to prefer one of them. Aha, look at that. That's exactly what we want. Look at that. Oh, it looks so pretty. Sweet. All right, now we want to update these a little bit. I don't know what I visually want them to be, but this is sort of the idea of, I like the fact that you set scrolling, then you set its speed, you set whether you're forcing position, then you set the force position. So we've reduced it from here all the way down to here. That might be as much as far as we go. Yeah, we're going to leave it like this. There we go. Oh, them a little bit bigger. Yeah, I'm really digging this music. Alright, I was wrong. Avi, Sarashu, well, they're pretty good. Thank you for proving me wrong. This is good stuff. I think it's just more you gotta be in the, I have to be in the mood for it. And right now, totally in the mood for it. It's very pleasing. Alright, look at that. I've got these cool new visual editors for updating our background scrollers. Just shows the information you need. It's great. So what we actually have to do is update all these correctly. So I can just look at the strings over here to see which ones we wanted to update. Luckily it saves all their values. The only one it doesn't we need to update is the actual background scrollers. This one's group 01 stars. This one is group 02 stars. Planet. Atmosphere. Mountains. Probably 5 mountains. 06 mountains and 07 stars. Okay. The asteroid currently has the most amount of parallax yet. 7 layers. Alright, we will apply all this hard work. Now let's connect them up. So they happen in sequence. Alright, so let's see if it does anything. We'll do that first, then we'll go ahead and fix up the other backgrounds. Ah, look at that. Yeah, we got some scrolling backgrounds. Beautiful. Alright. So that'll be a little bit more interesting to make a level in, I think. Now here's the thing though, I talked about that UI stuff earlier, or the fact that I want this sort of black bar up here so we can see less, so we can see the faces and visuals of the screen. But you'll notice that that's cutting off a bunch of our awesome art here. In fact, if I go ahead and remove that panel, where is it? Here we go. Blink. Remove that, we get so much more beautiful shmup action there. But we'll have to figure that out. We'll probably just move the mountains up. For now, we're gonna work in this because I'm actually kind of interested in that question. Is this enough space for us? So we'll go ahead and work within this range to go ahead and make our little shmup environment. So yeah, instead of fixing the other ones, let's actually just get into building some things. So a little while ago, I asked you what sort of to think about patterns and content to put in here. So we gotta do that. Triptide's talking about some bizarre legends about consuming me. Please don't eat me. I would like to keep making games. I'm with the same key. Oh, that's in the scene loader. We don't need to worry about that. That's old code. Okay, cool. So we are good on this. We got a little speed boost thing. Alright, so now we need to actually start putting some stuff in. We've got a mission loading up. I think. This shmup mission parent. This actually is an event, which hasn't been updated yet. So let's go ahead and fix that mission. Cerberus says the extra space cramps it a little bit. It does feel a little cramped right now. I am concerned about that, but I definitely want those faces somewhere on the screen. So we're gonna have to do some iteration on that, figure it out exactly. All right, we are in the Hollywood Treyarch. This is the thing I need to edit. We've got another event sequence in here. I'm probably gonna have to fix all the event sequences for the enemies too. So every enemy is gonna take a little bit of time. It's all right. We got to do it eventually. This is a very simple one. So we have all these enemy events. I gotta update all of these. Just drag them all in and fix them one at a time. So these are the events that do our enemy patterns. This is the stuff that we worked on in the very first coding session of Starr Mazer TV. If you remember way back then. See here, we got some people talking about things. Are we planning to make a secondary partner weapon like R-Type games? There are plans for that. There will be options in there, but we've got a really interesting way of implementing them. But I'm going to keep that a secret for now. It's cool. See here. I'm curious, why not stay on triple? Is there any kind of punishment for using the same one the whole time? What would anyone think to use single or double? Let's see here. It's gonna be, they're gonna have different amounts of like power. So we haven't balanced that out right now, but like the triple has the ability to shoot behind you. The double is really cool because it's incredibly concentrated. There's a thing right now where the double's way more powerful than the single because it's literally 2 bullets and they're all doing 1 damage. So yeah, we got to figure out the different uses of it and what's actually affecting it. Why would you use the single or the double? We got to balance all that stuff. So yeah, doing the whole weapon balancing is going to be super fun. You got to make each weapon interesting enough to use on its own. Actually, like the single that we see there, I don't think it's actually a very interesting weapon. I want to give it something a little bit more. Maybe it pierces as opposed to other shots which get destroyed when they hit enemies. Oh, we could do that. I think I could do that right now. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that as soon as I'm done this. Yeah, so we'll make it so it pierces through enemies. So it's not necessarily as good as the double because it's not hitting 2 shots at once, but the fact that it goes through enemies means it's better at taking out enemies in line. Or possibly enemies with multiple parts. Got some straight up glitch going on in this music. I'm digging it. Let's catch up on some stuff. People are talking about the way that they're the way to do crab bosses. It's sort of a classic in video games, right? Like so many games have a crab boss. Crosscode has a crab boss. I wonder where's the Starr Mazer crab boss? I haven't seen the art for it yet. So my music has ended, which means I need to now go find some more music. I think I'm going to play some Future Bass. What's this cool genre that I've been into a lot recently? We got a little playlist for it. So these are all the default patterns that we've already created in the past, one of which we did on Starr Mazer TV, or a few of them actually, I think. So we'll be using these as a base. We're going to actually start like trying to put a little bit of balance in this. So we're going to actually build a level. We're going to try to make it start feeling good. So we'll think a little bit about how much health the enemy has, how fast they move, how much damage they're going to do. Now this is not going to be perfectly set because we haven't implemented the shield system yet. And the shield system is sort of going to change the whole experience of fighting. But we'll get in some interesting gameplay just to have something to mess around with while we travel between stations. And plus it's forcing me to update all my events, which is really good. Oh man, Nadia suggested that if we have a crab boss in Starr Mazer, that it should be made up of multiple ships, Starr Mazer or Power Ranger style. I think that's the coolest thing. Like having like these two ships as like the claws and like a bunch of little ships as the legs, and you have this like large bulky ship as the body. I should tell Maximo about that. He should draw that. Oh, that was a nice easy one. Really short. It was just a straight pattern. Crab Mazer with the 2 R's is the best. Yeah, these videos must be a lot weirder on YouTube when you don't see the chat. So you're just like, you see this guy like look over and stare for like 10 seconds and not say anything. And then laugh. Like, that's the weirdest thing. If you were there, you'd understand. That's right, you should join for the live sessions on StarRmazer.tv. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 4 p.m. You can hang out with all of us, like Triptide, and Reptile Fiction, and Mattias, and Ian. Just hang out and make games. Tell jokes. Talk about crabs. It's good times. That one was huge. It was 16. Yeah, one of the reasons why we have this sort of visual editor is editing them here on the side like this gets unwieldy real quick. Of course, even this visual editor, I need a zoom out function because they still get pretty bulky. All right, I'm going to apply all these changes real quick. Crusty Crab Mazer. Crab Mazer 2 massive damage. 7 force. I'm not familiar with 7 force. Anne wants Starr Mazer to have a 7 force Eskimos. You should tell me about 7 force. Then maybe that could be a thing. Please enlighten me. Explain to me 7 force. And then I will relay it to the stream so that in future YouTube versions you'll know what 7 force is. And you'll be part of the club that knows about 7 force. Oh, here's a candidate for making this a lot more simple. Oh, I might edit that. Oh, these are all such good candidates for editing things. 7 Force is a boss fight in Gunstar Heroes, and I think Alien Soldier, but I haven't actually played it that. Morphs into different forms with different attacks forms. Yes, I remember that boss. Gunstar Heroes, an absolute classic. If you haven't played it and you want something to do this weekend, you should get one of your bestest bros and play some Gunstar Heroes. It's a fantastic game. Alright, so we've got all these things here. I want to edit this. I want to change this so it's a prettier window. It doesn't have all this junk in it, so I can get focus on editing things. We set a start location and location. We have a spawned object. What is that spawned object? And spawn object on path. Spawned object is based off of the enemy factory type. So instead, it would be better to just look for an enemy and have that as a drop-down. We still have to reference the enemy factory type, but if we get it by its name, this is what it's like when I'm thinking out loud. There's a bunch of things going on in my head that you don't necessarily know the reference of. But I'm thinking about how I'm going to link this up to the actual enemies that it's going to get from the factory. Let's go take a look at the code, see what I was actually doing. So we just want to reference a factory type, but we want to get that factory type from the types of enemies that we can spawn. Let's go look at where our enemies are. I think they're in resources, yeah. So they don't actually have any sort of enemy component on them. Oh, there's an enemy manager. Why don't you have an enemy manager on you, big guy? Oh, you have an enemy manager. Ah, the enemy manager is on the inside, isn't it? No, you're just not even an enemy. I need to add an enemy manager to this guy. But I can use the enemy manager to go find them all. I have to make sure to get the right object, though. It does have the top parent, which will be able to get the name that I want. Because all of those should be named correctly. Yeah. Alright, we're going to do that. We're going to look for enemy managers, much like we look for background scrollers, to be able to expose a drop-down list of all the enemies, so you can just pick which enemy you want to worry about, not worry about typing in its name. So, a similar thing as before. We have event spawn, object on path. And we're going to do that for spline as well. They're going to be pretty similar. Alright. Let's get into it. All out of water. We only have 30 minutes left, so I'm not going to get more water. I think that's what it was called. Spawn object on path. Doesn't have to be anything. Mattias Bias suggests an episode where Brick meets his alter ego, Wood S. Meadowbrick. Wood is Brick's polar opposite and is influenced in his timeline by the decisions you make in yours. That's amazing. All right. We have to initialize the variables. We have to initialize the superclass. It has to be an event-based object. Fortunately, this is C#, but we can just say, make it this different type. Do it. It's so easy. Alright, so now we need to think about the stuff we're actually drawing. We want that factory type thing. I have to go back to the utility, because we're going to get a list of enemy managers. Yeah. Enemy types. That's what we call it. I did this before. Actually need to reference an idea? I totally don't. This is I did this earlier today, where I don't actually ever store the entity integer in the class. I just reference them so I get the tropolis functionality, but I actually only store the string. I did this with clips before. I think it'll work. I need a way to get the right enemy manager, though. I might have to sort through that list. Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no, I have to set this thing right. What is it I'm looking for? I'm looking for the enemy managers, and the enemy types. I made a flaw in this reasoning. This is a generic class for spawning objects, and I'm making it only spawn enemies through this whole lookup thing that I'm doing. It's not exactly what I want. I want to be able to spawn any sort of object. So I'm going to have to expand this a little later on. But for now, let's focus on just the enemy aspect of it, since I'm already down this path. And the top parent's actually what I want, which means I need to expose that. There's a Mattias also referencing. There's a couple other advantages to sort of writing my code this way. For example, this just came up. Top parent is a private property that is serialized, which means it's exposed in the Unity editor, and I can assign things to it. If you change the name of this, you'll lose that assignment, and you'll have to go up and update all your instances of this class. So by making it so that private field always stays the same name, I can actually make it publicly accessible through this without changing its name, so I still get the same reference for it. So I don't actually break any of my previous associations for it, but I can expand the usage for it that I need to. In this case, I need to get the top parent to be able to look at it. I actually don't need to set it. That's sort of just a habit of doing that. But I'm going to take that for now. So that is one reason why the obtuse setup can be beneficial. People are mentioning no right-click rename in Unity. You can actually use refactor. There is the option there, and you can do that within MonoDevelop. But that will still mess up your actual pseudorizations of the metadata of the prefabs that you have created. So, I mean, it depends on the scope and how much you've worked on it, whether that's tedious or not. I'm actually going through that process right now because I have to update my new node system, and you're seeing me fix a bunch of things. But it's a minor thing. Yeah, it helps out in a small situation. All right, so we've got that enemy all set up, which is nice. The next thing we want to expose is the start location and target locations. So pop up, transform. I'm going to have to create a couple of things. Target location. Made sense at the time. I'm going to try something out. I think these ID references might actually be sort of legacy stuff, with things I was working with a little while ago. I mentioned before that it was a reason to reference those original prefabs. I don't know if I actually need it anymore because of the way I'm referencing things. So I'm going to not put them in. Let's see if it breaks or not. So since my music just ended and we were talking about crosscode a lot on the stream, I'm going to finish up my music by listening to crosscode music. I think I'll find it if I search that. That's what I want, right here. You should go listen to that too. It's beautiful. So Ian has a massive list of game consoles so long that it almost goes off the chat window. It's very impressive. All right. My discovery of animation curves and how I can use them in Unity has been one of my favorite discoveries. It can be used for many things, and it's a nice little visual editor for them. I highly recommend using them if you're changing any values over time. We've got some sort of compiler error here. Wow. I did this the last time too. Grabbed the wrong name. I'm going to assign that no. Does it like that? Ian is talking about the Dreamcast and their marketing strategy. Fun fact, the Dreamcast actually did better in America than it did in Japan, which can probably give you a perspective of how well it did overall. Radical Reguiding is here. I'm listening to crosscode music. It's nice. Welcome. Alright, so we have all that exposed. Let's see if it works. And then we'll copy this over to the spline thing. There's a couple adjustments we have to make, but it'll mostly be the same. Alright, so I have to go to the editor window. Radical Reguiding, you don't have to apologize for not showing up until just the end of it. You came at all, and you're running a campaign of a bunch of people that need to back you, so I understand your situation. Now, anyone who's run a Kickstarter before, they know it's a lot of work. It's an honor that you're here at all. Mattias Bia says that it's a little sad that Mattias hasn't done any game development and always felt that it was way too complex for me. I have this belief that game development's like the easiest programming to do because it's a very iterative process. So you hit play and something doesn't work, and you keep changing things until it works. And so you get this very direct feedback on what it is that you're doing. At least that's the way I code. It might not be necessarily the most efficient way of doing it, but it's enabled me to make a lot of things fairly easily. So don't let the fear of complexity let you hold you back. There's lots of tutorials on it, and there's lots of ways to get started. Especially the programming knowledge that you already have. You'd probably be able to jump right into it. Oh, that should totally be called node. Okay, there we go. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, Radical Reguiding. It's all about that dark Monokai theme. Nope, that didn't work. Alright, we have no reference exception. For this enemy type thing, which means there were no enemy types. Interesting. Oh, that's because this thing didn't update. Just get that wrong. Let's try closing it. Did I not have any enemy types for it to grab? That would be interesting. There we go. Had to reset. I have a button called reload here. I just added that, so I'm not used to using it, so I normally just close and reset the window. So cool. We have these things. Those are just the sprites, though. They're definitely not exactly what I was looking for. I need to go into the event editor wizard, not the node editor, utility is the one. And we need to change it so that the names equals any text at top parent name. So we get actually the top parent. The top parent is the actual master object that owns it. We'll reload. There we go. Alright, sweet. Now we have access to the boss, small to triple destroyer, which is cool. We can set our start and end points, which in this case is start and destination for us. We want that sort of direct reference there. Got our move speed, our move curve. That's looking good. It's much nicer. I don't know if that'll actually work though, because I did this weird thing with how I reference. Actually, I can see if it'll work. Now that I've selected as enemy spawn destroyer mode, so yeah, let's spawn the destroyer. Let's go into our thing, and it says enemy destroyer, so that should load up just fine. Sweet. We have made an improvement. Now our little node viewer can deal with this stuff a little bit easier. And let's sort out all our events. Now we got to update the spline one. I said that we were going to do another one that's very similar to it. So we're going to do the same thing here. The only thing is we just have to add in a spline and remove the start and end points. There's a couple other, there's a couple other things. We've got to look forward, the forward adjust. So we'll make some adjustments to it, but we can base it off of this code that we just wrote, the spawn object on path, because they're fairly similar. So we'll go ahead and add that in. Event spawn object on spline. Object on spline. Let's look one up. Cerberus wishes they had some games for their Saturn. I would highly suggest you get Duke Nukem 3D. Not for Duke Nukem. Not that there's anything wrong with that game, but there's a secret game on there called Death Tank Zwei. It's a game for up to like 11 players or something like that, and it's amazing. Like, I've literally spent entire days just playing that one game. It's so good. You should totally check it out. Turn this into spawn spline. So I'll make sure to check everything. Alright, so all these red lines are things that don't exist anymore. We need to get new stuff for them. We're going to use a spline. Where's Bezier spline? So we're going to add a new reference to a bunch of Bezier splines. Let's go add in the splines. You've seen me do this enough times that you could probably integrate your own node windows if I gave you the code base. Maybe I'll have the team watch this so they can do it. Nah, it's my job. Alright, Bezier splines. Alright, this is going to be the last thing that we do. We didn't quite get to making a shmup level. That's okay, we have paved the groundwork for us to be able to do that the next time we do a coding session. I've got plenty of other things to work on, so don't worry, we'll work on that together. But let's get our Bezier spline visual editor working. So we are ready to fix all of those enemy event spawns. Alright, I did all the right things. Let's go over to here. Don't need these. Oh wait. Do a spline. My favorite crosscode song just came on. I don't know what it's called, but it's real good. We've got the move curver. That's what I called it. Why would I call it the move curver? Whatever. I'm sure it made sense at the time. We have a couple more things we have to add in there, but we'll do that later. Spline. Alright, we need to add in the look forward toggle, the loop mode, drop down, and the forward adjust. Do I have an enum pop-up? I do have an enum pop-up. What is the Bezier spline loop mode? Bezier control point. Oh, nope. That's for the mode. I'll have to go find out what that is in a moment. Face forward. All right. Spline walker.walker mode. That's the one. I forgot I had made my own one for it. That should fix it. No. no, we've got all the errors. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we've got issues with. We have a Bezier spline, which is right there. We've got a string. We have a Bezier spline object array. Ah, I put them in backwards. That's why. Gotta do type of. Not the type of the enum, not the actual enum itself. And I'm doing something that's wrong. Oh, wait. I've done this before. Let's find out my references. Where did I do this before? Here we go. I do actually need to do that, but then I have to convert it. Okay. Because it returns a generic enum. So I actually do want this enum type in there. I think that's what it is. Nope, I actually do want type of. Everyone's having a great discussion about tons of awesome old video games. Now I can convert system.type into system.enum. We have a guest here. Hold on one second. Come on in. You can join the stream. We're at the end of the stream. You can come join. All right. Our guest doesn't want to be on stream, but our guest is on stream. This is Austin. He's a Starr Mazer friend. We are finishing up a coding stream, actually. I guess I will see you in a little bit. All right. It's going to take me like 5 minutes. You got to hang out with Austin there. He's another Starr Mazer backer, a Mazer, if you will. He's a cool guy. Me and him talk about code things a lot. He would probably know exactly how to fix what it is I'm working on. But I want to do this last thing before we end the stream. Oh yeah, that's not Auston, that's Austin. I know there's two of us, it's crazy. So the last thing I need to do is send in an enum. But it doesn't like the fact that I have this specific enum here. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I need to send the actual value in. Boom. All right, we're going to just load this up, make sure it visually works, and then we'll be done. So the last thing I have to do is go into the node window. Oh, I've got so many classes open. Here we go. Got to add in the new one. For event object spawn on spline. Set spline node, boom. All right. That should do it. Let's see. We got a little bit better of an editor here. No, I have all the problems. My compiler errors each time are going up because I'm a little hungry. Alright, let's go ahead, click off this, reload. We're still getting no reference errors, so that means there's an issue with this. The node window, the pop-up layout, object selection pop-out. You probably don't have the right pop-ups loading. Yeah. Let's focus. Alright, so got that Bezier spline. The Bezier spline should load up. Well, maybe I did that wrong. Node utility. The Bezier spline, we're finding out Bezier splines. That's good. Let's reload the event editor completely. And we're still getting this error. This is when we grab the index and the pop-up, the object names. Yeah, it's not getting the names of them. Did I set the names correctly? Names equals, I set the length to the wrong size. So it would always be a 0-size array. That's not useful to us. My hunger is increasing these errors. There we go. Boom. Look at that. Gorgeous. So now we can select our enemies, but we can also go ahead and select just the splines that we have. So now I have a nice editor for just selecting that. And with that, we're gonna hold it right there. We still have a couple more things to do before we get to the point where we are building the actual shmup level, but we were able to make a lot of progress in the event editor right now, which was really useful, cleaning up a lot of the old events that we've been working on. So a lot of it goes over fairly quickly. It's just I get distracted by trying to make the visual editor better, which is what I actually need to do right now. Building levels at this moment isn't super high priority for us because we actually need the tools ready so we can build those levels quickly. So all this work that we did over the past 2 hours is getting us closer to being able to create content very quickly. By making these editors a little easier to use, a little easier to view, then we can just select the things that we need to do and focus on building content as opposed to redoing the same sort of long menial tasks over and over. And as we work on this more and more, these tools that you see right here will get more improved. We'll make them more streamlined. We'll make them easier to use by adding in like search options. So thank you everyone for joining. It was great listening to some awesome music, getting to hang out with the Radical Fish Games crew, having you all talk about awesome old games and whatnot. So yeah, please join us on Thursday where we're going to hang out and do some more things. That's going to be a music-focused one. We're going to have Alex Maurer on there. So if you're interested in finding out more about music creation, we're going to get a little technical into that as opposed to the code side.